countdown to the last comic shop in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Meanwhile, at a Gotham City comic shop.
Is that you, Sugar Bumps? Who the hell are you?
It's me, Sugar Bumps.
Jack! Oh, thank God, you're alive. I heard you'd been...
Tried? Is that what you heard? You set me up over a woman! A woman?! You must be insane! Don't bother.
Your life won't be worth spit!
I've been dead once already. It's very liberating. You should think of it as, therapy.
Jack, listen. Maybe we can cut a deal.
Jack? Jack is dead, my friend. You can call me Joker! And as you can see, I'm a lot happier.
Oh, yes. Oh, welcome back to the Last Comic Shop podcast. That is my cousin, J.A. Scott, who I saw Batman 89 back when it was first released, and I think your feet stuck to the floor because it was so covered, old popcorn and stuff, you couldn't move, but it was still wonderful.
They didn't mop the floors in that movie theater. There was no, thankfully it wasn't carpeted. Oh man, yeah, that was one of those old ones. No stadium seating in this. It was if you sat right behind like a really big tall guy, and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna or this is the '80s. A girl with a big poofy perm. You're like looking through her hair to the screen.
Just kind of comb it to the sides like you're coming out of the Amazon rainforest. Wow. We also have Chad Smith on today's show.
Hey.
And he helped. I'm the host with the most, Andy Larson, and I've got my wife, Nicole Larson, also on this week's show, as it is, again, part of Movie Mayhem. And if you haven't guessed, we are celebrating the 35th anniversary of Batman 89. Boy, we are old.
I'm so confused. I don't remember it being called Batman 89. The movie didn't have 89 in the title.
But it was released in 89, and then since then they came out with all these other Batmans, so we have to, like, differentiate this Batman from, like, Batman 66.
Isn't it just Batman?
Yes.
It's so confusing.
Yes. Just like Batman 66 was Batman. Batman 89 was Batman. Batman the Animated Series was Batman the Animated.
Yeah, that's called TAS.
And then there's the Batman. The in front. So it's actually, and maybe in 20 years it'll be the. Did you go see the other day? Oh wait, is there a the?
The makes him a little bit more emo though than most other Batmans.
Oh lordy, Chad, do you remember seeing this in the theater for the first time?
Oh my goodness, that summer was built around Batman. Everything was building up to this Batman movie. When it came out, everybody went to see this movie when it came out. My 9-year-old brain was blown. I was like, I had no idea what was going on, but I knew that it was awesome.
That's great. See, I have been super pumped to do this episode because not only did I see it in the theaters with JA, then like it came out on VHS, and I think we just like destroyed that tape because we watched it so many times.
What, for Kim Basinger?
No.
And for Kim Basinger.
I actually don't think Kim Basinger is as hot as Michelle Pfeiffer is in Batman Returns. Like that's who I prefer, honestly. But no, we were watching it for Eckhart, and yeah, he's drinking Drano, and it was a great movie. But it's time to get to the review because we're also doing a comic book on our Movie Mayhem for this week. So we're going to talk first about the movie, Batman 89, to kick things off. J.A., who was involved with this project for those people that may have been living under a rock?
All right, so Batman, the 1989 version, was directed by Tim Burton on a screenplay by Sam Hamm and Warren Scarron, with a story by Sam Hamm, obviously based on the DC Comics Batman character, created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. It starred Jack Nicholson, not as Batman, but as Joker. He got top billing because he's Jack Nicholson. Michael Keaton as Batman, Kim Basinger, Robert Wuhl as the great Alexander Knox, Pat Hingle as a really pointless Commissioner Gordon. We're going to get to that in our review. Billy D. Williams, Michael Gough, and the always great Jack Palance.
No one-arm push-ups in this one.
He craps bigger than you.
Lots of fiber. Any case, we're going to get the 10-cent synopsis now from my beautiful wife, Nicole Larson. Now, I know that you took a lot of notes when we watched it just a couple days ago.
Not a lot of notes.
Enough.
I had a few comments.
You had a few.
To
see if you can get some of these comments
into
out.
my 10-cent synopsis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So there's this dude, Batman. And we don't know who he is, but Gotham's a mess. You got this lawyer guy that becomes the DA. You've got these criminals. Batman throws the one criminal into a vat. He turns into a Joker.
As one does.
I'm liking this.
Then you've got Kim Basinger, who wears a lot of white. There was a lot of white clothes, man, and this is a dirty city. I don't know how she kept that shit clean. And so she is a photographer who somehow goes from these worldly things that she goes to photog, and she ends up in Gotham trying to take pictures of the Batman with this reporter dude.
Yeah.
And somehow they all are trying to figure out who's who, but then she figures out that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and they bang on the first date. Pretty funny for someone who wears so much white. And then the Joker goes after her and takes her up a bell tower, and then they all fall off, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Boys, would you sleep with Bruce Wayne on the first day?
Not the Michael Keaton version. I'm sorry. I grew up with him, but, I mean, Christian Bale, come on.
Yeah, listen, haven't been to Bruce Wayne's house? You do what you got to do.
Speaking of other people who have a lot of money, obviously the Joker is quite a good mobster business guy because, man, they got that branding up quick. Man, he had his all his dudes in the makeup. They were all wearing the puffy jackets that were like embroidered with his face. They've got cars that are painted green and purple. They got the helicopter with his whole face on the side of it. I mean, how did they pull that off in like what seemed like maybe a week in the movie? I mean, that was really impressive.
You'd be crazy not to. It's a great branding opportunity.
I forgot in the 10-cent synopsis, there was a big parade with a lot of gas-emitting balloons.
Yeah.
And they destroyed an art museum.
You said in your notes about the balloons that there were like 2 of them.
Oh, yeah. In some scenes, the parade wasn't very impressive. There weren't that many people, and there was only like 2 balloons. And then all of a sudden, when Batman's like taking the balloons away with his Batmobile flying thing, there was like 10. And I'm like, how did they happen? There were only 2.
Still one of my favorite parts is like, he stole my balloons. How come no one told me he had that thing?
But also, can we comment on how at the very beginning, the entrance of Batman was very dramatic? I mean, he's standing there all stoic. He doesn't make any facial motion because I guess the helmet thing was like really rigid and couldn't move. And then he's like spreading the wings up and then putting them down and then spreading them up. It was very dramatic, I thought.
Very theatrical.
That's the synopsis.
So you can see how much I actually genuinely did enjoy watching Batman with my wife. These were the comments that I was getting for the full 2 hours. So I hope everybody else enjoyed them. I'm going to start off our review with talking to J.A. real quick about how long had it been since you watched this movie last?
Not so long. I watched it a couple years ago. I don't know if it holds up as well. Some things hold up well, some things don't. I think the advent of the Heath Ledger Joker kind of casts a bit of a pale over the Jack Nicholson Joker.
Oh, really?
Yes, because one's done a lot better. Same with Commissioner Gordon, who's just a pointless character in this movie. A bit more an active Lieutenant Gordon, or a Gordon that actually has some agency. I mean, he tries to push that bell out of the doorway for all of 5 seconds and says, no, we can't do it. Let's go away.
That's Pat Hingle. Have you ever seen him? The only thing he was pushing was a box of ho-hos. Come on now.
I mean, so Heath Ledger's Joker obviously was amazing, but I think Nicholson is the OG, and I think for what he was given to work with and the limitations of the time, I think they're pretty close. I mean, I don't even know if you can really compare them. They were just such different eras in movie making, I feel like.
Chad, is Jack Nicholson the OG, or is that Cesar Romero?
Well, I was going to say it was interesting because you could tell that the Jack Nicholson Joker was pulling from the Romero Joker, and then it was pulling from, the mob boss. It was the unique Jack Nicholson composition. And so as much as I love the Heath Ledger Joker, there's definitely room in my heart for the Jack Nicholson Joker. That guy was just chewing it up and having fun and getting ready to make some money.
See, I am going to go out of my way in defending the Jack Nicholson interpretation of the Joker, because just as a comic book fan, I find the mobster Joker much more interesting as a character than like crazy, anarchy-based Joker who does crazy things. I don't know how that character keeps going. Chaos for chaos sake, and it's just like my favorite Joker of all time, which is the Mark Hamill Joker from the Batman the Animated Series. It's an homage, or it's a takeoff of the Jack Nicholson, but
that one made
Joker.
sense. Nothing the Jack Nicholson Joker does makes a lick of sense.
What I do like about the Joker from the movie is the way they make it clear that Batman and Joker are intertwined. They created each other, and they are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, that's extremely important for any sort of Batman mythology, just simply because they are. Like, at the very base, they represent order and chaos or whatever, and they do create each other. I always thought that was kind of bullshit, I'll be honest, that, like, Jack Napier killed his parents. That was kind of stupid. Yeah. I do like the idea, though, that, like, they create one another. Because Batman exists, that's the reason you have all the super criminals in Gotham, because Batman, like, upped the ante. And like he was like, here I am. So now you need a better class of criminal. So then here's your better class of criminal. And therefore, then that pushes Batman to be even more Batman-y. And then that pushes more criminals to be even more crazy. And they just kind of feed off each other, like fish eating its own tail. No, that doesn't right. Snake eating its own tail.
But I will say that the Batman in '89 was the first comic movie nerd moment to be like, that is not accurate to the comic books. Joe Chill, in fact, is the person who has killed Thomas and Martha Wayne. And it really did grind my gears that they had the Joker cast in that role. And then the actor that played young Joker didn't even ham it up. Like, where's Christian Slater? He built a career off of doing a young Jack Nicholson impression. He would have been the perfect guy.
Oh, Lordy. We've been talking a lot about Jack Nicholson. What about Michael Keaton as Batman? Can we talk really quickly about that? I feel, in my own personal opinion, that the Michael Keaton Batman has aged extremely well. I think that it just keeps on getting better and better with age in terms of like his intensity and his let's get nuts. He's a little out there. He's a little crazy. He doesn't look exactly like as debonair as some of the other folks do. So I was just like, yeah, I believe this guy was Batman. What do you guys say?
He was boring. Michael Keaton was Batman, right? Because that's what we all first saw, and I didn't know the comic stuff, so whatever. I just didn't think there was much depth to him at all. He was like, I have to hide my identity, but then he was like going out and sleeping with people and whatever.
His hair had a lot of depth. Yeah, I spent half the movie wondering is that a perm? Is that his natural hair? When did Michael Keaton have such curly hair? Man, I missed young Michael Keaton. It's the 80s.
I will say, like my husband, he does look better with glasses on, though.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. I genuinely, as I've gotten older, appreciate how weird his Bruce Wayne was. Batman as a character is a damaged character, and you don't always see that with the debonair Bruce Wayne putting on airs. This was a super awkward Bruce Wayne. You could tell this guy was messed up from a young age. The dinner at the long table where they're just sitting there eating soup, staring at each other. There's so many weird parts of Bruce Wayne that comes out from Michael Keaton that you genuinely believe that this is a guy that would build his own latex suit and Batmobile complete with cocoon with little bombs that squirt out. But that was the crappiest part of the toy, by the way. It was a little plastic cocoon they gave you with the Batmobile. It was made out of like cellophane.
The shields.
Yes.
So that reminds me, one of the weird things about Michael Keaton's Batman is that when he's in like Batman mode, he doesn't say anything.
No,
I mean, like he's driving the car And weren't they like crashing or something? And he didn't say anything. He didn't say like, get out the way.
Yeah.
I did. And when he did talk, he's the one who came up with the whole, I'm going to lower the register of my voice when I speak as Batman, which then Christian Bale did to great effect and also great comedic timing.
I wouldn't say great effect.
Yeah, I think, Chad, you nailed it with the whole like aspect of here's a kid who's lost his parents and has been raised in this massive mansion by an old butler dude. The other, like the Christian Bale Batman, is very much the playboy Bruce Wayne, but I do like the sort of I'm a rich kid who doesn't know how to handle myself. Give this guy a grant and let me have video cameras set up behind all the mirrors. There is a lot of weird. Some of that's got to be Tim Burton. Tim Burton's bringing his whole. Where was Helen and Bottom Carter, by the way? Where was she in these movies?
Not enough corsets, right? If this is a Tim Burton movie. Yeah, but you're right. This was a Bruce Wayne that was not suave. He was not cool. He was not debonair. And I think that even came out in his Batman a little bit, where maybe that's why he didn't talk much, because he's just like, I'm not a really good conversationalist.
I like to dangle people from buildings.
That's fine. What do I have to talk for?
He didn't really beat anybody up. I mean, that was the thing, too. I mean, the bell tower, he literally was like walking up the stairs. Now I know he was a little injured or whatever, but I mean, you think that like he's taking your chick up the stairs, you'd run.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't he have like a grappling hook? Like, why didn't he use the grappling hook and just fly up there immediately? No, like he's got to get his steps in for the day or something. It was bananas. Like that whole scene in that bell tower is just like super weird. But we've got a lot more to talk about on this show. We think it's time to get to ratings so that we can talk about the comic book that we often do on this show. So, J.A., what's our rating scale for Batman?
1 out of 4 sugar bumps.
Never rub him in another man's rhubarb. I think I will go first. I'm going to give this a solid 3. I sat down, I watched it. I think it was the first time I'd watched it in maybe 5 to 10 years. And I enjoyed it just as much as I did when I was a kid way back in 1989 when I first saw it in the theaters. Is it a perfect movie? No. Is it a perfect Batman movie? No. But it's fun. It's campy, but in a good way. I love the scene at the museum and the where do you get those wonderful toys. Again, there's something at that last scene with the bell tower, it being like a castle, that makes it into some sort of like Wagnerian opera. Like nothing makes sense. Like nobody would build like a cathedral like that. Nobody would, I don't know, spotlight it. No, none of this would happen in real life. It's a play. It's a stage play almost at times. But it works. I think that's because of the direction of Tim Burton. Tim Burton can make weird things seem somewhat normal. And then you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to take this. So it's a 3. Still my favorite Batman. Still probably my favorite Joker. I still like the Jack Nicholson Joker the most. I just hate Kim Basinger. I think that's the only detriment to this movie. That's why it doesn't get higher than a 3. Because, boy, I don't think there's a movie out there with Kim Basinger I actually like. Yuck.
L.A. Confidential?
No. Despite her in that movie. Chad.
This is really challenging for me because I don't think this is a good movie. I think it's overlong. I think it's filled with contradictions. You have this wonderful Danny Elfman score, and you're going to supplement that with Prince? Like, God! Like peanut butter and ham. You know? All throughout the movie. You have Joker is this gangster. His big plan is to kill everyone with gas and then dance with Kim Basinger. You have these Joker goons that are super supportive and then at the end of the movie become like, oh, I'm a hyperactive ninja guy. Like, what? Where was that the whole time? There's nothing that makes a lick of sense about this movie. But at the same time, it is beautiful in so many respects. This is the movie that at 9 years old, whenever it came out and Batman fever had swept the country and there were Batman posters everywhere and Batman t-shirts and Batman cereal and Batman this and Batman that, you know, this is the thing that got me to trade out my baseball cards. Because let's be honest, Topps baseball cards peaked in 1988. You weren't going to do better than those designs. You had the Don Russ rated rookies and stuff, but it wasn't as good. But this got me to swap out my baseball card collection for comic books that I was like, I can collect these and I could read them and I can draw the pictures and all that other fun stuff. The Batman 89 holds a super important part of my own personal comic book origin story. And for that, I'm forever grateful. Was I so excited when Batman takes the extra minute to drive the Batwing up to get the bat symbol in the moon? There's no reason he would do that. I mean, he did just unleash a giant chemical disaster into the atmosphere with all those Joker balloons.
Yeah, he didn't care that those balloons would like drift over and maybe the poor parts. He's like, who cares about
killing millions of people.
What's your rating?
I guess I'll say 4. It's got to be a 4. It's beautiful. It's so stylized and doesn't make a lick of damn sense. And I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Batman 89.
Oh, there you go. J.A.?
Yeah, I think we have a lot to thank Tim Burton for making this Batman, because it did turn what had been the super camp 60s Batman as the main screen Batman for a lot of people, and took a very different turn from it. And because of Tim Burton's take, then we got the Christopher Nolan take, and all these were built really off of the foundation that Tim Burton and design team and the look and feel of Gotham and the look and feel of Batman. And everyone likes to make fun of that suit. But I remember when we first saw it, everyone was in love with the thing, because it didn't look like a man in pajamas running around with a cape. It looked like a superhero for the first time. This looked badass superhero with a utility belt that actually looked like a utility belt, even though it had these little weird capsule-like pill pouches. I think it's a 3.5. The Danny Elfman score is iconic to this day. The Prince songs, I mean, they're great Prince songs. I don't know how they hold up in the movie setting so much. That whole art gallery scene is so bongzo crazy. Watching it now, I was like, who decided to put this in? Let's go into an art museum and destroy all the art for chaos sake, except for that one. Leave this one. I kind of like it, Bob. And his top henchman is named Bob.
Bob the Goon.
Who then gets killed because Batman has a Batwing.
He is my number one. Yeah.
So, yeah, 3.5.
All right. Wrap us up, dear.
It just dawned on me that Jack Nicholson's name is Jack, and his character's name is Jack, too.
You think that was on purpose?
It just dawned on me.
I always thought that was on purpose. They were like, we'll write it into the script that your name can still be Jack.
Yeah, Jack.
Jackie Jack.
So interestingly, I do not have the core memories that y'all have. I mean, I remember it, but like you're quoting all these things that you and J.A. used to say, and I didn't remember really any of the gangster stuff. I just remembered him turning into Joker and the whole bell tower thing and whatever. I'm not going to be as sentimental and deep as you guys, but it was all right. It was all right. I mean, it's old. 30 years old, you said?
Yeah, 35.
35.
Yes, we're all old people. Like, way to go.
It's old, but I'll give it a solid 3 sugar bumps.
3 sugar bumps. That's
Sugar
actually
bumps.
better than I thought. I thought you'd give it like a 2.5.
I thought I was going to rip it apart.
I mean,
It was entertaining.
I don't know.
Clearly it was entertaining. I was
It's
like thinking, I was wide awake for the whole thing.
Okay.
Almost. I felt almost at the end. But well, and I did make Andrew start it at 6 p.m. because I knew if we started it later in the day, there was no way I was going to make it through a 2-hour movie starting at 8 p.m. No, I'd be out.
You.
So we started at 6, right?
Yeah,
6:30.
it was a nice late afternoon movie.
6 p.m.'s not afternoon. But anywho, we watched it, and I was awake, and I was entertained, and I was making little quips. That's pretty good for me.
Yes, that is, actually.
That's pretty good.
And it's all because of the Michael Keaton Batman.
Well, I mean, that's what I think of. I mean, that's my childhood Batman. I mean, I'd take Christian Bale any day, but...
Okay. Yeah, with the Christian
Oh, come on. Christian Bale's way hotter.
Is he the hottest Batman?
Yes.
Val
What
Kilmer.
about...
Val Kilmer, yes, hot, but, I mean, Val Kilmer Batman versus Val Kilmer Top Gun, no contest. Top Gun all the way. But Christian Bale, like, that's the role I think of with Christian Bale.
What about the Newsies?
He was like 15 or something. Christian Bale, Batman is hot. Just saying.
There you go. Well, one thing that is hot is our review of Batman 89, the comic book series.
How do I feel like when I come on the show as the token woman that I somehow end up objectifying men? All the time, right?
On that note, we'll be right back. Batman 89 coming up right after this.
Hey, it's Mikey Wood, frequent Last Comic Shop guest and collector. And as a collector, I'm always in need of boards, bags, long boxes, and more to house all those comics. That's why I use promo code LCSPOD to get 10% off my orders at bcwsupplies.com. Not only does it get me a discount on BCW's already low prices, but I know using LCSPOD at checkout is another way I can show my support to the Last Comic Shop podcast in their continuing mission to bring fans together under that big comic book tent. So if you're in need of comic book supplies, head out to bcwsupplies.com and use promo code LCSPOD today. That's LCSPOD.
When you're done listening to this podcast, check out mine. My name is Dave, and I'm the host of Beer in Front. My podcast is just enjoying the beer that's in front of you. Sometimes we forget about a classic beer while we focus on the new trendy thing. What I try to do each week is to enjoy an old school classic or have a beer that has potential to be a classic. I'll also talk about events of the day, I'll add my spin to things, and each week there are people that really annoy me, and I'll call them out as the jag-off of the week. That's Beer in Front, available wherever you listen to podcasts.
And like the bat signal in a cloudy sky, we are back talking more about Batman 89. This is the comic book series, not the movie. And it's not the comic book based on the movie, though I'm sure Chad will bring that up because he loves it. But we are talking about the new comic book series, Batman 89, by the same writer.
So 30 years later, the same Hamm guy's written something? Really?
Yeah.
How old is this dude?
Enough.
So hold on. You were worried about slut shaming Kim Basinger, but you're not like worried about like octogenarian shaming like
No,
Sam Hamm.
it's pure curiosity. I mean, how old was the dude when, presumably he was an adult when he made this movie 35 years ago.
He was.
How old is the guy now?
He was a toddler. He was in short.
He was born in 1955.
He's older. He's an older generation.
No one can do that math. That's
68.
impossible.
68.
He's a baby boomer. You know, the boomers.
So,
All right, so besides Sam Hamm, love that name, by the way, Chad, who else worked on Batman 89?
okay, so this 6-issue mini that came out circa 2021-22 had Sam Hamm, as you mentioned, Joe Quinones on art duties and did some beautiful covers for this one. Leonardo Ito on colors and Clayton Cowles on letter.
And Joe Quinones, didn't he get the job because like he was posting on Twitter like these awesome Batman 89 sketches or drawings he did, and so like they were like, oh, that's super cool. Like, would you like to do this?
Yes, that for years he would post his Batman 89 stuff on the social medias. And apparently it got to the right people and he got the gig.
There you go. And I'm kind of glad that he did. Although Nicole was kind of saying like Michael Keaton didn't look like Michael Keaton in this at all.
I didn't know he was supposed to. So I commented to Andrew. I sent him a picture as I was reading, and I said, why is Batman's hair so messed up? Because it's all dark on the top, and then like the whole bottom is gray, and I get the whole aging thing. And he's like, it's supposed to look like Michael Keaton. I'm like, that's not what Michael Keaton looked like. Yes, he had grayish hair, and it was curly, but he didn't have like this two-tone thing going on. I did not find a panel that looked like Michael Keaton till page 86.
I think
Wow.
they did not have the image rights for the actors, so they look similar enough that you can use your own imagination, but they're not going to be direct representations of the characters from the movie because for the image
There were
rights.
some of the alternative covers or something that were like more pencil-y looking that I thought looked pretty close, but
Yeah. Well, it is the entire conceit of the series, which is, again, what would have happened if they didn't make Batman Forever.
Which is named wrong. That one should be Batman and Robin, and Batman Forever should be the fourth movie.
Right, but
the four.
I get so confused with these Batman names. Which one is Batman Forever? Talk to
that's
me.
That's the Val Kilmer, Jim Carrey as Riddler one.
Okay. What's the one with Danny DeVito and Christopher Walken?
That's Batman Returns. That is the actual sequel.
So many.
As I was saying,
I'm confused.
This is an alternate universe in which instead of making Batman Forever with Val Kilmer,
Which is so funny because this talks about alternate universes.
Yes, it does. If Tommy Lee Jones played Two-Face, you still had Billy D. Williams. It's a continuation of the storylines set up in Batman and Batman Returns, where here's your 10-cent synopsis, kids. Batman stops a bank robbery and ends up killing somebody accidentally, so he stops being Batman for a little while. Meanwhile, Harvey Dent is further his political career and maybe trying to run for governorship. But long story short, Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face, and that's the big thing. The Michael Keaton Batman teams up with the Marlon Wayans Robin, and then Michelle Pfeiffer comes back as Catwoman, and they have some scenes with the kissing. That's the 10-cent synopsis.
And it picks up on so many of those threads that were originally supposed to happen either in Batman Returns or the follow-up. Like you brought up the Marlon Wayans thing, and that's my favorite, like, comic book nerd. Did you know that Marlon Wayans was originally cast as Robin? And he got so far into production that they actually produced a Marlon Wayans action figure. But then, when they decided to cut him from the film, they whitewashed the action figure, who clearly has an African-American hairstyle, but is produced with all white skin. And Marlon Wayans collected residual checks for the next two movies as a result of getting so far in the production schedule.
Oh, wow. I didn't know the thing about the residuals. That's kind of cool. And I will say, this is the first time I've ever read this, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think leading up to this show, Chad or somebody was just like, I don't know if it's any good. Like, I read it before. I don't know. And I was just like, what are you talking about? This is the best. This is the movie we should have got in 1993 or 1994 or whatever. This is the natural continuation of all of that stuff from Batman and Batman Returns. And you got Michael Keaton, who's a little bit older, a little bit wiser, running around. You got Robin, who's not really Robin, but kind of looks awesome, and he's driving like the Batcycle. J.A., did you like it? Come on, tell me you liked it.
No.
Oh!
I'll tell you what, I thought it was all right. I thought it was leaning really heavily on nostalgia and for things that we all loved about the Tim Burton Batman movies. And then I was reading some other Batman stuff, so I'd have a recommendation. And the other Batman book, the graphic novel I read for my recommendation, blew this out of the water. And it was so night and day. It was like, wow, that's actually a really good comic book. This is just meh.
Okay, my question for you is, in what order did you do things?
Movie, book, and then graphic novel, Son of the Demon.
Yeah, because for me, whenever I had read this the first time, and I'll dip into my review a little bit, I thought it was okay. The story didn't impress me. You know, the little winks and nods, as fun as they were, like Lego Batman beat them to the punch as far as having Billy D. Williams as Two-Face. So that wasn't as cool as it could have been. Billy D. Williams as Two-Face had a mustache on the other half as well. That kind of threw me. The little white mustache on the teal.
Yeah, have been burnt off with the acid. Like, you would think that you wouldn't be able to grow hair there.
People's skin also wouldn't have turned blue. Can we just talk about that?
Touche. But yeah.
Touche, Two-Face.
Two-Face. But there were a lot of things about this, and the story itself, not anything to shake a stick at. But then having watched it after the movie, I'm like, oh, this is the movie. My biggest regret was that I didn't take the time to watch Batman Returns as well, which is sandwiched, right in between this, because it's a Sam Hamm story for good and for ill, but it fit that time period perfectly. And the Joe Quinones art, which initially I was having similar issues with the likenesses, he's pretty consistent throughout for what this is. And I don't know, I'm a Quinones fan, and he does great facial expressions. He has his storytelling chops. At the end of the day, I enjoyed this a lot more having had seen the movie than I did the last time whenever I just read it cold.
I struggled a little bit with this because I don't recognize the Easter eggs, and I don't really sometimes follow things. Like, it took me a long time to realize that the dude was going to be Robin. Like, that took me a long time. Like, pretty much till he was on the bike. And then I was like, oh, he's going to be Robin. I get it. But, like, it wasn't recognizable for me. Like, I was like, who's this person? I don't know. This is a weird connotation, almost like Miles Morales. And now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, obviously there's a lot of undertones of, like, consequences to your actions, because Batman thinks he's doing something good, but then this kid gets shot and leaves this little baby orphaned, and so then he retreats from doing the Batman thing. And I did like the Harvey Dent, how he would like talk to himself, like from each side of himself at the same time.
Yeah,
that was interesting. And then obviously there's a bit about different outcomes that could have happened, parallel universes or something, which I thought was pretty cool. But other than that, unfortunately, me, I'm not too much into the POW fight. I was very confused with all the extra Batmans.
Oh, the vigilante Batmans.
Were they good people? Were they bad people? Were they...
Yeah, was that like a nod to Frank Miller?
Yeah, I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
You had the mutants, and you had the guy with they were wearing the same eyeglasses that the Frank Miller mutants wore. And
heck yeah.
See, I took it as more or less just a social commentary with like the folks that, put on Punisher shirts, even though they've never read Punisher or anything like that, and went around being like, well, I can do whatever I want and have vigilante justice for my folks. Because there's that one scene where they break in to steal the video game system. Well, I can do it because I'm wearing a Batman thing, and even though I'm breaking the law, I'm pretending to be Batman. Like, this is a commentary on people that use symbols to just then go and do their own.
Yeah, it's the people that misunderstand Fight Club out in the street. Oh, this Batman. Oh, we can do what we want. Vigilante justice. Let's go burn this kid's garage down. Wait, no, that's not what Batman does.
Was that who started the fire? Because that was another thing I was confused on. So the vigilante Batman people that weren't Batman burnt down the thing?
Yeah, they burnt down the place because the Robin character, Drake Winston, he was the guy that stopped them from stealing the video game thing.
They burnt down the whole garage over a video game system?
Yeah, because they were pissed off at the kid. Because how dare he, protect his neighborhood and stop them from stealing and looting people's stores because they're dressed up like Batman.
Yeah, they had Batman privilege.
Right, Batman privilege.
Wow.
Well, and I will say that another cool thing about some of the character designs in this is, did anybody notice that they were taking a lot of things from Batman TAS, this animated series, like the fact they give Bruce Wayne a brown suit and tan pants, and the fact that the Two-Face in here kind of looks like the Two-Face that you get in the animated series, where in that series, Harvey Dent was African-American, and his one half was like white hair and like blue face. So like they were tapping into not only stuff that we remember from Batman, Returns and Batman, but also the Batman animated series, which I feel like was the spiritual successor. It was what we eventually got and what we kind of wanted as fans.
But I didn't like the Catwoman redesign in this.
No, I thought if you look at the sketchbook at the back, that was much better done. The coloring was off in the comic. They kept making her leggings flesh, and they should have been leggings.
Right. So you're saying because they gave her like a swimsuit, thigh highs, instead of just...
even with the redesign, and I can respect Jay's point here, it does look better when it's not the flesh tone. That's not my Catwoman. My Catwoman wears a pleather bodysuit. Sounds like Eartha Kitt or Lee Merriweather or...
No, J.A., come on. That's the Catwoman. That's the Catwoman.
Yeah, no.
Right?
To Chad's point, it did bug me that I did not like the flesh tone on the upper thighs, and then when I saw the sketchbook, like, oh, it was just the friggin' colorist got it wrong.
So clearly, as the woman, I did not notice this. Honestly, hold on, I gotta go back. Where's the
says Nicole, who's objectifying the men the entire
our objectifier,
show.
Resident objectifier.
Right.
It's our turn.
I didn't mind it. I didn't mind her redesign, honestly.
Did you like this redesign at the back? That was very bodacious.
Oh, the Babs Tar cover? That Babs Tar cover.
I was like, what is
For those
going on
folks
there?
that may be reading it in the collections, there's a Babs Tar cover that's, heck yeah.
That's Babs' wheelhouse. But speaking of Babs, I know when we talked about the Superman 78 comic, we talked about some of the additional casting and how it seemed like they had David Bowie cast as certain characters. I was curious, could anybody place the Barbara Gordon casting? Was she Winona Ryder, or who do you think Quinones was going for?
There was one of the pictures, one of the sketchy things where I was like, dude, is that Winona Ryder? Because that's exactly what I thought. Now, I couldn't say that I thought that while I was reading the comic, but one of the...
I think it was the cover. The cover
Yes.
to issue 4, or whatever that was.
Well, then it's official. We have 2 people that said it wasn't Winona Ryder. She was cast in there as Babs Gordon.
Right? Wasn't that her era? And Tim Burton?
Well, she was in Beetlejuice. She was one of his cadre. I mean, it's not Helen Bonham Carter. Okay, let's get to our ratings.
Hold on, I'm back to this cat suit. Yes, I agree. I don't like, I mean, it looks a little Taylor Swifty. You know what I mean? Like where it's just like the suit without the...
Let's get to ratings.
It's got to be cold out there. You can't have exposed
Well, in this
thighs.
one picture, she's like flying, and it looks like she's got a tail. It's...
Wait, they gave her a tail?
I don't know what it is. It's like she's really far away in the distance, but anyhow.
J.A., what is our 1 out of 4 scale for Batman 89, the comic book?
Coins.
Multiple universes.
Bad
Those
haircuts.
are cat whips, by the way, not a tail.
Schrodinger's cats.
No. So this is all based off of Tim Burton, so it's 1 out of 4 Burtons.
Well, there you go. Like Richard Burton's?
That could be anything. Yep.
The Elizabeth Taylor's wife, her husband.
All right, Chad. You go first.
Okay, like I said, reading this series on the heels of the movie, I genuinely enjoyed it. I'm going to give it a contingent 3. If you have the time to sit down and watch the Batman movies and you got a hankering for more Batman, this could definitely scratch that itch. And a lot of the complaints I had early on, second glance, I actually think they weren't really complaints. I think the storytelling is sound. The characterization is good. I got all those little nuances that, little movie nerd me remembers, like, oh, look, they finally got the Black Robin. Oh, my goodness. Harvey Dent's finally Two-Face. Like, that's a huge deal. This is very much what it is. And that's a good thing, as long as you're watching the movies.
All right. J.A., you were not as big of a fan. What are you giving it?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 2.5. I guess as a follow-up on the movies, and with that caveat in place, it's all right. But that's a pretty big caveat. This is not just like a book that you could give to somebody, hey, do you like Batman? Here's a great Batman story. You've got to watch the movies first, and maybe you don't like the Tim Burton movies, or you're wondering where Helen Bonham Carter is because it's Tim Burton, and why is she not in there? Were they dating that? And then you just go down this rabbit hole of Tim Burton-ness. This is a bit like that. It's you haven't gone full Burton yet. They're better Batman books.
Well, that is true. That is true. I think, though, I'm going to give it a little bit even higher than both of you gentlemen. I think I'm going to give this a full 3.75. I really love this book. And maybe it's because I'm a huge fan of Batman 89 and Batman Returns, and I would have loved to see a third movie. Honestly, Batman Forever is one of my least favorite comic book movies out there. I really don't like it. I don't like Jim Carrey as the Riddler. I never got Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. Two-Face is my favorite Batman character, and I think that you get a really good Two-Face in this. I know there's this scene where like he runs in to save Drake Winston from this burning fire, and that's how he becomes Two-Face, right? And like he's viewing this alternate universe where all the things work out rosy for him. Like he marries Barbara Gordon, he becomes the governor, like Bruce Wayne is like, oh, you're the best, Harvey Dent. And then at the exact same time, he wakes up and he's like burnt with acid. That's the moment that he says, okay, there are alternate universes, good and bad, and it's all about the coin. I thought that was like fascinating as, a character explanation for Two-Face. So like, I loved it. And so I would have much rather seen this as the movie that we got as movie number 3 in the Batman franchise instead of Batman Forever. So for me, that's like, it's a dream come true. Plus you got more sexy Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman, who's still always the best Catwoman. So 3.75. This is great for somebody that loves those movies. Nicole.
I'll give it a solid 3. I just know Long Halloween or whatever that one is.
Okay.
That's it.
I will say, Andy, if this was a movie, this would have been the best Two-Face. Far exceeding the Tommy Lee Jones Two-Face, where he was just in it for a paycheck, you could tell. And even the, what's his name, Aaron Eckhart from The Dark Knight. That movie, they shoehorn Two-Face in and never let the character breathe and be his own thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That Aaron Eckhart, he's a great Harvey Dent in that movie, but I still am of the opinion that him getting blown up should have been the end of that movie. And then you have Two-Face come back in the sequel, and that should have been the story of Two-Face. And then he wouldn't have been shoehorned in so much.
But then we wouldn't have Bane.
I give you my permission to die, Mr. Bond. All right, we got recommendations coming up right after these messages, and we're going to be quick about it, so stay tuned for that.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nick Polatichuk. I'm an independent film director and screenwriter. I'm also an independent comic book artist and creator. I want to let you know about my podcast, the St. Paul Filmcast. It's a weekly podcast where I interview other independent filmmakers and other artists from the Twin Cities area. You can find the show on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, and Amazon Radio, as well as distributor Podbean. You can follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So, if you're interested in how independent films get made or the process of filmmaking, also if you're interested in other artists' process and works as well, tune into my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, where it's not over till the guests say it's over.
With more Last Comic Shop, and it is now time for recommendations, and we got to be quick about it because we did a lot of talking about Batman 89, but yeah, these are some other books you can pick up in addition to that in either a trade paperback with that sweet Babs Tar cover, or maybe you can find this with that sweet Babs Tar cover in like a $1 box or something. That would be great. But yeah, recommendations. We're going to start off with J.A. because he said he had another Batman book that was even better.
No, much better. Also, the first appearance of, retconned, first appearance of Damian Wayne. And that is the 1987 graphic novel Batman, Son of the Demon by Mike Barr and Jerry Bingham. And my God, the Jerry Bingham art is incredible. Now, this is a guy who hasn't done a lot of comic books. He did some Batman stuff. He did some Marvel team up. Then he left the industry, moved to Hollywood, and became the set artist and production designer for movies. But his art on this story is incredible. And it's essentially the story of Batman when he was married, use that in air quotes, to Talia al Ghul, goes and teams up with Ra's al Ghul to fight this other person that is trying to kill the world and kill Ra's al Ghul for something that Ra's al Ghul did during World War II. So it's very much, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And then he knocks up Talia and becomes overprotective dad Batman. So she fakes a miscarriage so that he can go off and be Batman again. And then 9 months later, Damian is given to an orphanage. But it also does, it breaks up that sort of romance they had brooding. But the art is incredible in this. If you're getting it just for the art alone, it's well worth it. But the storyline's great too. 1987, so you got the Soviet Union. You have this sort of realpolitik. Gorbachev and Reagan make appearances. It's space, Star Wars satellites are going to destroy the Earth type storylines. There's some rando Tajikistan, Kazakhstan type country where the bad guys have found root.
Oh, very good. That is a great book. I have it on my bookshelf. I have yet to read it. I picked it up for like $3 in a bin or something. I was just like, I got to get this. And then I was just like, wait a second, this isn't the original Demon story. That's something else. And then I was like, this is the sequel, but still I should read it. It's all falling up that Neil Adams stuff. It's the spiritual successor to that whole Neil Adams storyline that Chad loves, with him running around with no shirt and riding on horseback.
Oh, yeah.
dinner with Ra's al Ghul, and he's in his Batman costume.
There you go. Was he at least wearing the shirt part? Because sometimes he just takes the shirt part off.
And he still has
leaves his hat on. Doesn't make any sense, but it is awesome. Carries around a sword.
Well, what else is awesome, Chad? What's your recommendation?
So if you enjoyed Batman 89, boy, could I recommend Batman 89. No, the original 1989 movie adaptation, which was worked on by Denny O'Neil on writing duties, illustrated by Jerry Ordway. If you want wonderful likenesses, check out Jerry Ordway's likenesses. He's so great. Steve Olive did colors. John Costanza did letters. They recently, in 2019, I want to say, released a deluxe edition where they will give you the line art alongside the colored pages. But this is, you talk about that nostalgic itch. I picked this up off the newsstands whenever I was 9 years old. It was one of my favorite comics to have and flip through that summer. And Jerry Ordway's art is just incredible. And it is beat the Batman movie with a couple minor changes. And then it's like, oh, look, they changed that. Oh, look, there's Arliss at the end, hiding under things. Oh, man. Did anybody else watch Arliss? That was a great show.
Yeah, I do remember. What? And if you want some extra listening material, make sure that you're checking out our interview with Jerry Ordway, where we asked him all kinds of questions when we were interviewing at Baltimore Comic Con. In our archives, you can listen to that episode today if you wish.
When you were interviewing him, did you ask him why the commissioner and the police guys couldn't just push the bell out of the way? How they just gave up? That really annoys me.
They didn't even try.
Listen, it's a union gig. They weren't going to hurt themselves.
Let's go turn on some spotlights.
That's bad angle. What do you want from them?
And then when they're at Axis Chemicals, be careful up there. Be very careful.
All right. Nicole, you've got a recommendation for us?
I'm going to go tangential.
Okay.
Because we were talking about Tim Burton being a little weird and Helen Bonham Carter, which made me think even more weird. Then I kind of went to the Les Mis movie, and I was going to recommend that, and then I was like, that doesn't really fit this at all. So then it made me think, who else is weird? And you know who else is weird? Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is super weird. And if you want to read a super weird comic by Neil Gaiman, you read How to Talk to Girls at Parties. 2006, written by Neil Gaiman, and Gabriel Ba and Fabio Moon did the art. So we know them from Day Trippers. And it's really weird. And the girls are aliens. And go for it.
Oh, well, there you go.
No, I'll have to check that out. It's been on my radar for years, but I've never read it.
If you thought that the Batman movie didn't make a lot of sense sometimes, well, then read this. You'll enjoy it.
Nice.
Now, is this the graphic novel version? Because there's actually a short story.
Yes, this is the graphic. Yeah. Now, I have not read the short story version. I have read the graphic novel version.
It was nominated for a Hugo, the short story.
It was.
Well, bringing it back to Batman to close out our recommendations this week, I'm going to talk about something not Batman 89, but Batman 66. We talk a lot about these awesome team-ups that DC does with Batman 66. You know, Batman 66 and the Green Hornet, Batman 66 and Archie. This is Batman 66 and Wonder Woman 77. Yes, that team-up of those two awesome TV versions that are near and dear to a lot of Gen Xers out there. This was a series that was written by Mark Andreyko and my favorite, Jeff Parker, with pencils by David Hahn and inks by Carl Kessel. It really starts off with what would happen if the Batman 66 as a kid met the Wonder Woman in the 1940s when she was still fighting World War II. She shows up at a party that the Waynes are throwing at their estate. And who else shows up there but Ra's al Ghul and Talia Ghul, which is, a link to J.A.'s recommendation there. And then it's just basically what would happen if there was the League of Shadows or Assassins or whatever. Flash forward to the 60s, and they go to Paradise Island, where Wonder Woman's there, and Ra's al Ghul is trying to get to a Lazarus pit that is on Paradise Island, and they fight Minotaurs and Cyclopses and things. And then it fast forwards even further to the 70s, and Wonder Woman is still the ageless Linda Carter, so she still looks like all Linda Carter-y. But by that time, Batman is now retired because Cesar Romero killed Commissioner Gordon, shrugs, and it's now Nightwing. You should check it out. If you like all of those series, if you like Batman 66 and the Wonder Woman series from the 70s, this is like a natural melding of those ideas and a continuation of all of those stories if they just branched out. Kind of like, again, what we got with the Batman 89 series. Good nostalgia. That's what we deal with now, friends. That is our currency. Nostalgia.
I hate it. Nostalgia for nostalgia's sake is horrible. It's a crutch.
It's a crutch, but it's a fun crutch.
Yeah, you
like
know what's
Crutchy from Newsies. You know, who sells papes? Newsies sell papes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sells papes? The Last Comic Shop. We sell comic books because we talk about them, and hopefully then people go and pick them up at their local.
We want you to seize the day and go to your local comic book.
That's right. But we don't actually sell the comic books, so it's a popular misnomer. We're just a podcast to recommend books for you to buy elsewhere.
Wait, I missed this. There's actually a place called The Last Comic Shop?
Yes. In
Malaysia.
All right, but you should rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. That's our thing over at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com. Make sure that you're checking out us next week. We're going to be wrapping up Movie Mayhem with J.A.'s pick, The Crow, the Brandon Lee movie, as well as the original Crow comic book.
And while we are the Last Comic Shop podcast, not the actual Last Comic Shop, we always recommend that you guys get out to your local comic shop so you could participate in all this nostalgic fun. Whether it's things like Batman 89 movie or the book about the movie or after the movie or after the other movie that came after this one, but not the other one that came after that. But that's anyway. Or you can read Batman 66 meets Wonder Woman or the Batman 89 official movie adaptation or Batman Son of the Demon or Neil Gaiman's How to Talk to Girls at Parties. All that and more waits for you potentially at your local comic shop. And then you can check back at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com where you can find our links to social medias and our merch store. J.A., what's the specialty today in honor of Batman?
Well, obviously, we always have T-shirts, coffee mugs, tote bags. This week, a special on giant rubber suits that you can't move your head in. So you've got to turn sideways. I always love that scene when he's on the catwalk at Axis Chemicals, and he doesn't see the cops coming until he turns.
But see, I think that added to it because it made all his movements very deliberate. I don't have to look over. I'm going to, turn my body. So, the cop's like, what the hell's going on? This is freaking me out just by this guy just doing this. Jeez. Nicole, where can people find bags and boards and boxes and all kinds of other bric-a-brac that they can keep their stuff in?
Head on over to BCW Supplies to grab your comic book long boxes and stuff that y'all use, and put in the promo code LCSPOD to 10% off your order. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what you really should do. I mean, it does help us out too, but 10% off, that's cash in your pocket.
Yeah, go get yourself some stuff.
Yes,
comic book stuff,
and it's good for other things like trading cards and collectibles and all kinds of stuff.
Sounds great.
It does.
It does.
You can sell it. Thank you, Vanna.
Don't pull this shit on me last minute, man.
All right. And until next week, when we hope to give you more movies matched up with comic books, I'm the host of the most, Danny Larson. I'm joined by Jay Scott, Chad Smith, and the wonderful Nicole Larson. And until next week, stay safe. Stay Batmaning. Yes, that's a thing. Remember,
whatever you do, don't dance with any pale devil to the moonlight.
The moonlight is pale, not the devil.
The white devil's in the moonlight.
That moon should get more sun. It should stay out there. It should not be so pale.
Or the Joker's wiping off the paint, but he's really just putting it on his head.
I love that scene.
I'm melting. Boom.
The Last Comic Shop podcast was a 2024 Black Angus Production.